Friggin' prelims? Not prelims. What the hell?
Primaries.
Primaries. That's what I was saying.
Stop it. Welcome to the Naked Apple. Shoulder shot. Was that one? You sunk my patrol boat.
'Tis but a flesh wound. Welcome to the Naked Apple.
Yes. It's almost election time.
It is.
It's that everyone's favorite time of year. Where
second favorite time of year.
Where your social media is flooded with ads for people that you don't care to see anything about.
Thanksgiving is the actual favorite time of the year.
Yes. Glorious tables full of meat.
Turkey Day. It's the only appropriate way to celebrate anything is with egregious amounts of food.
Copious, even.
Yes.
Copiously egregious.
Either way. I've heard it both ways.
So long as it tastes good, I don't care.
That sounds about right. Well, shall we just jump right into some vitamin B?
Let's laugh a little bit.
Let's laugh. Just a little bit,
Just
though.
a little.
You're not allowed to laugh excessively. It says so in the Bible.
Somewhere in the hearty har range.
Welcome to your vitamin B.
Thank you.
We have news for you today.
Again?
Yes, with elections quickly approaching, the Galactic Empire requests amnesty for anyone who may have gotten carried away and blown up a planet.
So what? Alderin's gone. It happens.
Speaking of illegitimate requests, Biden asks for COVID amnesty, Afghanistan pullout amnesty, gas prices amnesty, inflation amnesty, student loan amnesty, war with Russia amnesty, nuclear Armageddon amnesty,
3 hours later,
and weaponizing the FBI against political enemies amnesty.
And amnesty from amnesty.
And amnesty from amnesty. Yes. Speaking of amnesty, you should feel comforted. Theologians confirm thou shalt not steal does not apply to your kids' Halloween candy.
Aha! Good.
The age-old question has been answered.
I can stop lying to them about it being a tax.
I mean,
wait. Oh, that's one and the same. Dang it.
The government's been telling us that for years. DHS announces they will suppress as much speech as it takes to preserve democracy.
What would we do without them?
I don't know.
Heroes.
Speaking of free speech, Paul Pelosi claims intruder shouted, "This is MAGA country," while throwing hammers at him.
This is MAGA
For those of you that don't know the rest of the story, a man violently smashed Paul Pelosi's back end. Wait. I mean his back door.
Back door.
Wait. This is not getting better. Let's move on.
Hammered. Oh, no.
Speaking of poor saps married to monsters, divorce attorney conveniently located at IKEA exit now.
What?
Yes.
They exist?
Yes. IKEA has decided to invest in your well-being by applying a divorce attorney to every exit from the building.
I want a divorce from IKEA. I did not consummate this marriage.
Oh. This is some fun news ties into some stuff we talked about last week. Desperate. Kanye lands sponsorship deal with Crocs. That is an unholy union.
The Kanye?
The Kanye.
The
one and only Yee. Yay. However the crap you say that two-letter name.
Graced us with the epic song, the Poopity Scoop.
Yes.
Whoopity Whoop. Poop.
Yes.
Scoop.
Speaking of small people with overinflated egos, America recommends Kim Jong-un test nukes on Astros-Phillies World Series.
I mean, the U.S. has only gone into major depression, recession every time the Phillies are in the playoffs. So, there's that.
Yes.
The World Series.
Yes, a representative from the U.S. government said, no pressure. We just wanted to let you know it's available. If you're looking for ground zero,
Just giving you some options.
maybe shoot for the Astros dugout. Or the Phillies. Honestly, we don't care. And this has been your vitamin B.
Very nice. That was
refreshing.
Quite the flow of information
It was.
off of that one.
It was. He was pretty rapid fire this week. Good old Ecom.
Well, we have a special treat for you. A special guest is with us in studio. You most likely don't know him. But we know him, and that's good enough for us.
Yeah.
His name is Keith Christensen, no relation to myself, at least within the last few generations.
At least that we've been able to determine.
And we've known him for at least 5-10 minutes.
At the very least.
At least 5 or 10 minutes. But he's what did I say I was going to introduce you as? A disgruntled patriot extraordinaire, something or other.
Disgruntled Evan McMullin voter.
There we go. That works.
I mean, is there anybody left from 2016 that isn't a disgruntled Evan McMullin voter?
Apparently not.
Apparently. So, yeah, he's got a few words he'd like to say. And he's going to be with us sharing. I couldn't think of anything else. That's what professionals do.
What the hell is even that?
Thank you. I'm not a professional. I'm not paid.
Yeah.
That's our version of Crowder's admonish button. What did you even say? What the hell is even that?
So, without further ado, I guess we'll start with Keith. What initially got you interested in politics in general?
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here. I listened to a couple of your episodes, and I thought the quality was really high.
You don't need to. It's fine. You don't need to really embellish
And
it
so
too much.
I figured
It's gotten better over the years.
I figured I'd want
don't listen to
to
the
get
first
involved
episode.
while you're still small.
Get in on the ground floor. That's fair.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Twitter has been emancipated, so we might have some ads eventually.
That's true.
Yeah, hopefully that happens. But anyway, I'm making an investment early on. That's what I see. In the penny stocks.
The penny stock. Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So to answer your questions, why I got involved in politics in the first place, I would say it's just where my creative brain tends to go. Like I like to think things through a lot, and that was just one more area I could wrap my head around.
Right.
Like I majored in math, minored in economics, and as I was wrapping my head around those things,
So naturally, politics.
I kind of, like my mind is like a planet destroyer. Like once I wrap my head around one thing, I just want to go to the next thing. And
Fair.
Yeah. So,
Very nice.
but yeah, I would say that fundamentally it was the economics of it. Then I discovered the Steven Crowder show, which made me discover like the Ben Shapiro show, and then just podcasts in general.
Just spiraled out from there.
And it spiraled out of control.
Nice. You're everyday extremist.
And then Jordan Peterson. I mean, I'm told that they're all gateway drugs to Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
That's-
Eventually, yeah.
Jordan Peterson is, I love Jordan.
There's
Peterson.
7 steps to Kevin Bacon. There's 5 steps to Jordan Peterson.
It's a much faster process.
Well, he's straight and to the point. It's, you know,
That's fair.
he doesn't mince words. So, what would you say your involvement generally is with politics outside of odd things like this year?
Mostly it's just arguing with people on Facebook.
Fair.
Although this year I've kind of upped the ante a little bit. Like I did become a delegate for my community.
Nice.
Nice.
So I was involved in like the local politics and researching candidates there. And what I learned from that is you really have to look beyond what they say to sweet talk you in a Republican primary.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Oh, politician
Yeah.
lie, not tell the full truth. Come on. Deseret
Yeah.
News says it's all
And
good.
With smaller politicians, like when on the more local level, it's a little bit more difficult because they don't have as big of a profile,
Right.
You know, and so you have to figure all that out, and you know, I think it's just been growing, you know. So yeah, that's usually what I do.
Cool. So you were much like Mike and myself in 2016. You voted for Evan McMullin because, well, at least for me, I didn't trust Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And the guy that I would have preferred dropped out. And absolutely
Ted
Hillary Clinton.
Cruz?
Yeah. And absolutely Hillary Clinton was not happening for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
But I'm probably more mad about it.
I've never been so happy to not only be wrong but to lose.
Yes.
In my life.
Yes, Trump was the
Yes.
happiest loss I've ever had.
As I was, as I am
to that.
now,
Amen
that
to
I did not win that election.
So is that basically why you went for McMullin in 16 as well?
I mean, it's a similar story. Yeah. I learned a lot from 2016. That was actually the first time I had voted in a presidential election.
Oh.
So I was only just barely starting to wake up to politics. Like I did follow the Republican primaries, just that whole process. And yeah, I was devastated when Ted Cruz lost the primaries and Trump was our only option at that point. And yeah, I mean, I just kind of believed what everyone around me believed. You know, like I was hearing from a lot of conservative voices that Trump was not our guy, and so I'm like, okay, I guess Trump is not our guy.
Right.
And it seemed logical to vote for Evan McMullin. But looking back on that was the biggest mistake of my life.
Do you
I've led a pretty good life, but
Do you have any regrets in life? No, I have not. Wait, there was this one time I voted.
exactly for Evan McMullin.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, no, like one thing that I learned about that is there were certain media narratives that I bought into. The first and the biggest one is Trump is evil.
Yes.
That was one that I bought into.
Well, yeah, he was all involved in Russia and all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And
Of course. And what made
in the locker room talk and
what made me initially believe that is because of how buddy he was with the media beforehand.
Yeah, before, and then he went and discredited the media.
And then he turned around. So there was a lot of confusion there. Like, hold on, wait. I thought you guys were friends.
But anyway, also Evan McMullin, he very much appealed to the conservative in me, and also the how do I put this? The part of me that wants to feel morally superior to everyone.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so he appealed to that part of me, which was very much alive in 2016. Evan McMullin, like a big issue that I've always been passionate about is abortion.
Right.
And in 2016, he put these very inspiring speeches on how he would, or rather statements on how he would elect judges that would overturn Roe v. Wade, and
Right.
he was the most pro-life person ever to run in any presidential race ever.
Hit all the right cues.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
because I wanted to feel above it all. I mean, I knew the the futility in voting for a third-party candidate, but it did make me feel like I was above it all.
At least I can sleep at night.
Yeah, by
Right.
voting for Evan McMullin, and then Trump. You know, when he was elected, he ended up overturning Roe v. Wade, which was a dream I never thought I'd see in
Right.
my lifetime. and a ton of other things. Like, definitely the greatest president of my lifetime.
Actually brought peace to the Middle East.
Yeah. He got rid of ISIS. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, we've forgotten about it. I was I was reading a list of Trump's accomplishments recently, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
They were a thing.
Oh, that's right. That existed.
And for reference, like I mentioned last week, if Magic Wand I was president and had to get out of Ukraine, I just let him know, if we have to turn this boat around, if we have to turn this car around, we will own you. We will glass everything and own everything. That's basically what Trump did with ISIS. He dropped the biggest non-nuclear bomb we had on them.
Oh, the Moab.
And they disappeared. All right, yeah, I gives up. My gives up.
Quoting Jar Jar.
Yes.
It's against the Geneva Convention.
It's the only thing they respond to. Yes. So, what makes you passionate about this race now that you've got some regrets?
Yes.
With McMullin.
Well,
and you kind of went over that a little bit with the...
Well, I want to get into a philosophical conversation.
Oh, okay.
That's for a minute
Philosophically speaking.
So, the thing is that the reason why a vote is valuable to me, because a lot of people that don't vote, they usually it doesn't make a differse.
Doesn't matter to me.
The candidates aren't going to win by one vote, so what does it matter? But the thing is like in my head, like I feel like I have an obligation to vote, because if I don't vote, then I don't have the right to complain about the result
Yes.
of the election. Whereas if I vote for someone, or if I vote against the person that ends up winning and they suck, like that gives me a lot of comfort because I know that I did not, I'm not responsible for what they are doing.
I can comfortably say, I told you so.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and so like just philosophically speaking, like that's very important to me.
Right.
And so the fact that I voted for Evan McMullin in 2016, it means I did not vote for Trump, who is responsible for the greatest presidency of my lifetime, if not beyond.
Accomplished all the things you wanted McMullin to do.
And he was responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade eventually.
Right.
It wasn't during his presidency, but gosh darn, that is his legacy.
The judges that he got put in.
Exactly. Yeah. And so because that is the greatest moral victory that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, like I feel a great deal of regret that I had nothing to do with
making that happen.
With making that happen.
Right.
And not only that, I fought against it.
Yeah.
And so like that is just part of my head, and I am sad about it.
Yeah. So now, so what, I guess, what makes you passionate about this race then, of moving into this midterm election that generally people don't care about?
Once again, the midterms, the turnout is lower and that sort of thing. That's what you're talking about. Yeah. So I would just say that it's McMullin himself, because once again, that was the very, no, seriously.
This guy.
It's this guy. I am driven by hate for no.
Let the anger course through you.
No, but basically, like I'm catching his emotional manipulation, and it's working on people that I know and deeply care about, and that is deeply frustrating and disturbing to me.
I'm sure that has nothing to do with his professional training.
And also
CIA.
the fact that I fell for it in 2016. Like it just puts this perspective on me, like I have to protect people from making the same mistake that I made in 2016.
It's like he escaped a cult.
Like to my kind of like to my credit, in 2016, like not voting Trump didn't have the record that he does now,
right?
And also Evan McMullin was like a no name. So if he makes a passionate statement about abortion, like
that's all you got to work on.
Yeah, that's really all you have. And so it was believable, but you know what they say about fooling me twice.
I do know exactly what they say about that.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Don't you miss him?
Thank you, George W.
A statement for the ages.
George W.
But yeah, like like I mentioned before, he switched his position. Like he called it morally wrong abortion in 2016, and then he switches his position so that he can get the Democrats to support him.
It shouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade, is what he said.
Yeah, exactly. And he is very he's very reluctant to say at exactly what point we should ban abortions, because he still says that he's pro-life, but he just rejects the extremes on both sides. But let's assume for a minute that he has a fairly moderate stance on it. Let's say we take the same law in Florida, which bans abortion after 15 weeks.
Which was the Roe v. Wade position.
Yeah, right. So,
initially,
again,
anyway.
Like,
Correct
let's
as
just
usual,
assume,
King Friday.
Let's just assume he doesn't support late-term abortions, which are horrific. I mean, all abortions are horrific. But, at 15 weeks, 95% of abortions happen before 15 weeks, and he calls himself pro-life.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, so you're supporting a guy who supports 95% of all abortions?
It's only most of them.
Like, so anyway, that to me sounds like a lie to me. Again, I'm making an assumption of exactly when he is, but presumably he's not going to be...
He won't tell anyone what his
farther
line is.
right than a red to purple state. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's a total lie. Also, because he switched his positions to get Democrats to vote for him, it seems to me like he's just trying to find like groups of people that would be the easiest to manipulate. And I think last time it was principled conservatives that wanted to feel above it all. And this time I think it's people that want to like reach across the aisle and end the divisiveness, that's happening in Washington, as if electing him will somehow alleviate that, at least to some degree. And again, it's just so they can feel morally superior. And because he's lied about these sorts of things in the past, I think it's just a rhetorical trick.
Right.
To get more people to vote for him. And as far as that goes, like, he's put out a number of tweets that, like, I think contradict his entire thing.
No.
Yeah, so this was one from like a week ago or something. Again, he's running on being above it all and working with everyone and being Mr. Decency and not bipartisan.
He's
himself.
Mr. High Road.
Yeah, exactly. And then he put out this tweet. He said, "Who knew that the Kremlin class of 2022 was holding its orientation here in Utah? Maybe they'll show up in matching tees. I annexed Crimea, and all I got was this stupid T-shirt." And he like was referring to Mike Lee and Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard, yeah, working together.
Yeah, working together. And so
which
he
is
puts
exactly
out this,
what he wants to do.
He put. Yeah, I won't speak to the irony there. Anyway, the point is like he's campaigning on being like the adult in the room that is going to help people get along, and he puts out this snide and childish tweet against his political rival. Like that's kind of bringing down your whole campaign, because you just admitted that you're a bipartisan, basically childish.
Right.
Like if you're going to hold yourself to a higher standard, then you have to be that higher standard. Otherwise, your whole campaign falls apart.
One thing I love exploring through his tweets, because as I mentioned before, I learned how to search Twitter. There's a chunk of his ads that he's put out that are no longer available to watch.
Ooh, why is that?
Well, I don't know exactly what the ads were because I can't watch them. But I wonder if it has anything to do with Mike Lee calling him out, saying all of your ads are attack ads. None of them talk about your platform, what you intend to do. They all attack me. And then suddenly ads disappear from this thing.
That would make sense.
They're not about that.
Speaking of Evan McMullin attacking Mike Lee, the other pillar of his campaign is he's calling Mike Lee a election denier because he considered for a moment that the 2020 election is not valid. Now, I know that there are many of us that believe that there were shenanigans that happened in 2020, myself included. But as far as Mike Lee is concerned, like the state certified the election, and like there was like a conspiracy of maybe they could like switch electors or something, but that's all predicated on the possibility that there was voter fraud that can be verified.
If there is solid evidence. Yeah,
that can be proven in a court of law. And Mike Lee, at the very, like the text message scandal or whatever, Mike Lee he at the very beginning he was like, okay, let's explore every constitutional and legal method we have at our disposal to dispute the election results, which means we need to find proof. And if you look into those text messages, he was like, I don't think we're finding the proof, guys. And so eventually, like, he went against the narrative and he voted to certify the election.
Right.
Which, again, like, as far as a senator is concerned, I believe was the right thing to do.
Yeah, it was his job at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so that's his allegation against Mike Lee, is that he considered for a moment that the 2020 election was not valid.
He only certified it after the storming of the Capitol. Yeah, because every other senator certified it after the storming of the Capitol.
Anyway, and then this is a tweet, Trevor, that you made me aware of.
Oh yes,
yeah. And so this is a tweet by Evan McMullin. He says so this was written in 2020 around the time RBG died, and we needed to. Anyway, Evan McMullin, this is what he tweeted out. He said, the Constitution gives presidents the power to nominate Supreme Court justices with the Senate's advice and consent regardless of the time left in a president's term. So far, so good.
Uh-huh.
Then this line. But the Constitution also requires that a president be elected by the states, not installed by a foreign power.
Oh, he's an election denier.
He's an election denier. There goes the other pillar of his campaign. And not only because he criticizes Lee for considering for a brief period of time that there might be something to the election fraud. But all throughout last presidential term, he was calling the 2016 election a sham. So
even before it happened.
Don't have anything to verify that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I guess I should correct that. He was saying Donald Trump saying it's a sham beforehand is just bogus. And then Donald Trump got elected and he turned around and said, well, Russia helped him.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I think that is very ironic is that it shows that Evan McMullin will go along with the Democrat Party narrative without looking into it at all.
Oh, yeah.
Compare that to Mike Lee, who, he considered it, he investigated it, but eventually he ended up defying the Donald Trump's narrative to certify the election because at least in his position as a senator, it was his duty.
Right.
And I think that was a heroic thing to do.
Yeah, that's one way you can tell if a senator is actually a politician is actually following the Constitution, is if they follow it to the point where it goes against what they want to happen. Because I know darn well Mike Lee did not want Joe Biden to be president.
Yep.
He would never say that because it's not couth for a senator to say things like that before the president comes in and blah, blah, blah. But he had to follow the Constitution, even though I'm fairly confident he did not want that to be the result.
Yeah.
He had to follow.
Yeah. And actually, one more point on Evan McMullin always following the Democrat Party narrative is this tweet. It's criticizing Trump having the ability to nominate a Supreme Court justice, which all of Trump's nominees were constitutionalists, which means he probably would be more in favor of a Democrat nominee, and all of them are believe in the theory of basically legislating on the Supreme Court bench.
Yes.
Which I think is deeply unconstitutional, which I think also proves
Roberts.
that he's not interested in protecting the Constitution.
Well, he only started talking about the Constitution after Donald Trump was undergoing his first impeachment trial.
Interesting.
Then and only then did he start tweeting about
because you've read his entire tweet library.
Yeah.
Speaking of him following the Democrat mold, I just sent you a link to a tweet that Evan McMullin put out for Halloween. There, Trev.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Happy Halloween. I was surprised to walk into a room full of Evans this morning at the office. Looks like our bald coalition is growing.
It's a gang of skinheads. I didn't even read the caption when I first saw it. I was scrolling down and I went past and I came back because I was like, wait a minute. Because the only time I've seen anything else like that was in Idaho.
Oh my goodness.
There he is. There he is. Gosh.
There's really nothing untoward here, but it is just kind of funny.
Wow. So he's full of himself too. Who'd have thunk?
Yeah. Yeah, well, his followers are a bunch of peaches too. He literally has one follower whose name is like he put the 2001st mule in the middle of his name on Twitter.
Evan McMullin did that?
No, not Evan McMullin, one of his followers.
Oh, I see.
Like one of the people that's like rabid about following him.
The 2001st. So is he admitting that he helped with election fraud, or?
That's what it looks like to me.
I don't know.
But you know, it's it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the dude that writes for politics for the Salt Lake Trib. Holy shit. Are you kidding me?
The 2001st mule?
Yes.
Oh.
So it's Brian Schott, the Salt Lake Trib political writer. His handle on Twitter is @SchottHappens. SCHOTT.
That's
happens.
I'll give him points for that. That's clever.
That one was clever, yes. But his name, like his public name, is Brian. I am the 2001st mule Schott.
Can we get like a geofencing thing to see where he's been?
Seriously. Wow. Yeah, I just noticed that he tweeted a thing about how they offered to do a nationally televised debate with Mike Lee and Evan McMullin, and Mike Lee turned it down, and McMullin said yes. Like, I don't blame Mike Lee. It would be a waste of time after how badly he beat McMullin in the last one. McMullin looked like a joke in that freaking debate.
It was also in the 11th hour.
Yeah.
You know, like it was not that long ago.
I love how like Salt Lake Trib and some of the local Democrat rags are
So all of them.
are trying so hard to make it sound like McMullin won that debate. Anybody that watched that debate, McMullin got his ass handed to him.
He just kept repeating the same points
over
and over again.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Which we just debunked just now.
Yeah. We literally just picked apart every argument he made in the entire debate. And like we weren't even trying. Look at this.
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the implement.
Exactly.
You know, and it's one of the things that's the saddest to me about our current day and age with the social media and everything is people are just, they're so misguided because they don't ever look past.
They're lazy.
Yeah, they don't ever look past what's spoon fed to them at the top of their feed. Like,
I saw that headline on Twitter, so it must be true.
Yeah.
Right.
No. So that's actually a philosophical question that I've been wrestling with lately. Again, going back to when I voted for McMullin in 2016, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can drop it down a little bit closer to your chest and point it up. It helps a little bit.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, it's good.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, philosophically going back to when I was when I voted for McMullin in 2016, I mean, I was there, you know, I was just consuming whatever was spoon fed to me. And looking back on that, I realized just how easy it is to find yourself in that situation. And so I've come to the conclusion that that's just what the average person does, is that they vote based off of the feel of the different candidates. You know, and the media, whoever they want to demonize, like they are desperately trying to smear the campaign and just make them feel icky.
Yeah.
And I totally fell for that, you know. And I'm realizing that I'm trying to find a balance between like how I can call out the average person, even though I just kind of have to accept that's what the average person does. You know what I mean?
Right. So, emotions are extremely powerful, and getting past the emotion is hard to do.
Anyway, but yeah, that I can thank Evan McMullin for that, as he helped me get over that.
It just reminds me that we've quoted it several times in the past. The Thomas Jefferson quote, Trev, the fixed reason firmly in her seat and called to her tribunal every fact, every opinion, question with boldness even the existence of a God, because if there be one, he must more approve of the homage of reason than that of blindfolded fear. Because that's what that quote's referring to is fixing reason firmly in her seat, is putting her in the judgment seat, putting her at the steering wheel, letting reason rule over that emotion. And that's it's almost a, I'm trying to think of how best it's like a poison that we have with all the social medias and things now. It is a constant tug on the emotions.
Drip of dopamine.
It's literally, it's like having a constant IV of emotion with all these different.
I'm in a glass box of emotion,
swirling about. It makes it difficult for people to turn it off and to do that, to fix reason in her seat and to actually think about these things logically and come at them from the different angle of, well, yes, these things that they've said make me feel bad, but are they true? Are they real?
Yep.
And do they actually matter?
And that,
and
that's, whenever I think about that, I think of fight or flight response. Because emotion tells you you need to be afraid of this thing. Reason tells you whether or not you can fight that thing or you need to run away from that thing.
Right.
Yep.
And if you don't have reason under control, your automatic response is to run. No matter what it is, it's to run. And that's reflected in the 2020 elections with Donald Trump. He increased in every single demographic except for the white, middle-aged, stay-at-home moms, basically.
Yeah.
That one went way too... that demographic went way too...
To the left, yeah.
The left. And they were the ones obsessed with, they're at home watching The View and all these mainstream type things, or on the social medias, where it's filled with Donald Trump said these mean things. Donald Trump did this mean thing. He said this mean thing. Look at this mean tweet from Donald Trump. That's all they were filled with. And so that emotion was all they had going into the elections, which told them run from that to somewhere else. They ran to Joe Biden. And now looking at polling, that demographic has switched back to Republican.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because reason is finally kicked in. Like, hey, your SUV costs a lot more to drive your kids to school and back.
Well, and we'll be perfectly honest about it. It's not necessarily even that reason has kicked in; it's that the emotion has switched. Because
that too, yeah.
I mean, you look at the 2020 election was the perfect example of what I was talking about with social media governing the emotions of those that are voting. Because what news and stuff was pushed to the top of the feed? It was the COVID shutdowns. It was all these different things with Ukraine and the impeachment and all this stuff. And what stuff was pushed down? The Hunter Biden laptop was completely suppressed until after the election. And that story alone, if published at the top of the page and in the public view like it should have been, would have flipped the election.
Yeah, that alone. I think
alone.
that's a credible theory.
That one thing alone. So when I talk about the election, not being legit, I'm not talking about
the votes
and the ballots and stuff like that. Though I think there was probably some hinkiness there too. I have suspicions about that. But when I talk about it, what I'm specifically referring to is the fact that the media and social media completely robbed the people of America of information they needed to make a reasonable and thought out decision. Because they suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop, among other stories, that would have made people vote the other way. Yep. Because the allegations that were disproven against Trump were nowhere near as strong as there is a laptop that belongs to Hunter Biden that is tied to Ukraine that has child pornography on it.
And if that story made it to the top, it would have been revealed to the lay person that the only reason why we know about this laptop and Hunter Biden's stuff is because they failed in their impeachment of Donald Trump. It came from that.
It did.
Their justification was like, oh, it hasn't been verified, so we're just going to suppress it. Meanwhile, they were spending 4 years with the Mueller investigation.
And now,
exactly.
And now all of that information has been verified. It's verified that that was Hunter's laptop. It's verified that it had very illegal things on it, that it had very bad ties to different countries. And it's been buried. There will be no criminal charges brought on anything for that laptop because Biden's in office.
Yep.
You know? And that right there is you know, the shadowy cabal that the Times News talks about. That's what it is.
Yep.
It's not just the 2,000 mules type stuff. It is the entire network. They're fighting a what is it? Fourth generational warfare. It's all information based.
Ones and zeros.
You know, it's all it's hackers and it's news stories and it's people that are directing a narrative.
Rules,
Yeah,
like in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
mail-in ballot thing.
yeah. You know. It's pervasive and it's absolutely a poison that has completely taken hold of and I would say not just our country, but it's taken hold of the world. You know.
Yeah, and then they wonder why people got a little riled up at the Capitol. On top of everything that happened the year leading up to that.
You know, and the reason why it seems so prevalent that it's, you know, that Americans are getting mad about it is because America is the only country that has freedom still. We're the only one that has in our Constitution free speech.
Some modicum of it still exists.
You know, we're the only ones that have rights.
Yeah.
You know, you look at every other country, they have, you know, Canada has a constitution that guarantees your rights. It doesn't guarantee you rights.
Yeah.
Their constitution guarantees you nothing. It gives you permission from the government. That's all their constitution does. Our constitution says your government doesn't have power to take shit from you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the difference between us and them. We are free. They are not.
It states specifically your government is here to protect these things that come from somewhere else.
Right. And so, you know, when we talk about stuff like that, and then you have an instance like January 6th, you have all of these people that are coming and speaking out, and people are getting enraged because people with legitimate concerns are being silenced. Well, it's because we understand what it means to be free.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the kind of thing that really boils Americans' blood. It's genetic. We threw tea in a harbor over this shit.
Less than this.
I still haven't figured out January 6th. There's so many competing narratives.
There's so much.
Even competing narratives on the right. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
There's so much, you know, and we stated from the beginning when we heard, you know, January 6th and people were planning on going over there, we said, don't do it. It's a trap.
There's some stuff that looks fishy about this. Yeah.
And that's exactly what it was. It was a trap. And people fell into the trap. And it didn't... I feel like it was a trap set by one side, triggered by the other side, but not in the mass that the original trap setter wanted it to be.
I'll believe the government narrative as soon as they find the guy that planted the pipe bombs.
Right, exactly. You know,
I'll start to believe then.
And there's all of this stuff there, and the hardest thing about January 6th is that the more you look at the stories, the more you actually dig in to the different things, the different narratives. It's all bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like everything about it is bullshit.
Nothing lines up. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah, nothing lines up. Nothing makes sense. The timelines don't match. The things that even the senators and stuff that were there, the things they say do not match what happened.
To the point where they had some aide talk about Donald Trump overpowering the Secret Service to turn the beast around. Yeah, he broke the dude's clavicle. Yeah, sure.
And it's turned into a Salem witch trials type thing, and it's one of those things that just really needs to. We need to find a way to stop.
Well, that's why Evan McMullin's here, to reach across and stop all this.
Yeah, because that's gonna work.
So, with all that, do you think Evan's going to win, Keith?
I do not. I will say that I was perturbed for quite a while that maybe he might win, because I have come across a lot of people that are very vocal.
Signs are everywhere.
The signs are everywhere.
Like that poll that showed McMullin up 6, and that was our only poll for the longest time. I know that it was put out basically by McMullin's campaign or whatever,
right.
but
an internal poll.
It was still very disturbing to me. Recently, we had another poll come out that was, I believe, is considered quite credible, and it said Lee is up 10.
Yeah, that sounds better, but it's not good.
Where it should be. Yeah,
yeah, seriously. He should be up at least 20. At least.
And then I also looked at the comments on one of Evan McMullin's ads, and all of the comments were pro Mike Lee. So that does give me a little bit of hope, but
yeah, he's losing his social media influence.
Who knows what could happen? You don't really know.
Yeah.
But I am more comfortable with that race than I was.
Yeah, and I think heading into the midterms, Utah is one of the bigger ones to watch just because of this situation. Because Evan McMullin is officially...
The margins will be very interesting to see.
Because Evan McStuff-your-face is officially endorsed by the Democrat Party. So the Democrats are not running a senator. They're not running a candidate for this race. They're just throwing all their money behind McMullin, to the point where McMullin was even at their convention and said, I'll be, you're not going to win with a D next to your name. I'll be the independent and all this stuff. And that's how he got their support.
And he finished his entire speech by yelling, "There is no D in me."
To which he got a rounding applause, standing ovation.
And the head of the committee sent him a shirt that says, "I'm not gay, but $20 is $20."
Sponsored by Act Blue. But what's going to be more interesting about this is if the margin is still close and Lee wins, Democrats are going to try this everywhere.
Again. Yeah.
Everywhere. Because it'll be their only inroad in places. It'll be their only real inroad in places like Texas, Idaho, Wyoming, things like this, where it has been solid Republican for umpteen years. But if this works with McMullin, even just
by increasing the margins, making it a close race,
then they'll drop their Democrat label everywhere and just throw independents up all over the place.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that would become less effective over time, but man.
Because at that point, it's just the Democrat Party running as independents.
Right. Eventually, people would catch on to the labeling, which is what happened with progressives, and they switched to being liberals.
Were they actually a party at one point?
No. That was within the Democrat Party. They called themselves progressives.
Their label. Okay.
Yeah. And then Woodrow Wilson kind of demolished that because we were like, nah, I don't like that. And so it took them some time, but then they're like, oh no, we're liberals now. Oh, liberal, like libertarian.
Well, and classical liberal, like the classical liberals were actually very reasonable. That's in their politics.
That's why they're called classical liberals now, is because of that.
And so then the progressives hijacked the liberal movement, and it turned liberalism into something that it wasn't ever supposed to be.
Yeah.
And now it is progressive liberalism, and
which is
hot garbage.
Contrary to...
It's like a mix of jazz and funk. We call it junk.
Or Faz.
Which is much like a mix of country and rap. which we call crap.
Crap. But yeah, Lee has to smash McMullin out of here, and then hopefully that will make him go away.
Hopefully.
Go away. Go away.
I was hoping, I hoped he wouldn't come back after 2016. And yet here he is, yet again.
In 2016, Mike Lee ran against a transgender candidate, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
So I could see Evan McMullin coming back in, let's see, 2028 as the new transgender candidate. Independent and transgender. Like, who could resist that?
Slap all the labels on
exactly.
him.
My greatest fear...
He would only do that if it didn't work.
My greatest fear is that rather than waiting till 2028, they run him in 2024 as the only person running against Romney. Because then we're left with Romney or Romney Light.
I don't know that he'd really be Romney Light.
I think he'd be worse.
He'd just be
than
Romney in a dress.
Not like way worse than Romney.
I never said which one was Romney Light.
Fair. Points you raise are valid.
I did not specify. No, but really, because McMullin has literally put himself in the mold of Romney in this race.
Yes, we need to be like Romney.
Is
what he said.
Yeah, he's literally said, I want to be like Romney, which is awful because Romney is trash.
Yep.
He's so bad.
There's a reason why he's not in the news.
He's
put his head down, stay out of the news, so he doesn't get any attention on himself, so he can just follow.
Yeah.
Who he's following is not who I prefer him to follow, but...
And that's like half of my fear with this is that they're running him this way because they're hoping that he beats Lee. But if he doesn't beat Lee, they know Romney's losing next time.
Yeah.
Because the grand majority of Utah hates Romney.
So far as I've seen.
Yeah, I hope that's true. I'm, being in the delegate space, like we are having an issue with Democrats infiltrating the delegate system, and anyway, so I'd be very interested to see if what happens in 2024. But you better believe I'm gonna try to be a delegate that votes against him next time.
Oh, and you should. You definitely should.
One thing I will say is Romney was supposed to come to the convention, the Republican convention this last year, but he chose not to. I suspect because of what happened 2 years ago.
That's right.
Where he got booed. Yeah. So
that's a shame.
So I think that was a good sign, in my opinion. I would have been there booing with him.
Yeah, no, he's hot garbage, and so that's like my biggest fear with McMullin is if he doesn't win this time, he's not going to show up in 2028. He's going to show up in 2024 as the only person running against Romney, and so then our choices on the ballot will be Romney or McMullin.
Be what happens. There's got to be a decent Republican that at least tries to run against Romney.
Because then there's a chance they can get Romney back, who's always on their side, or
it's a win-win for him.
At the very least, they'll replace him with McMullin, who will be nothing but just another sock puppet for...
I can't imagine McMullin infiltrating the Republican Party like that.
Yeah.
I think that he, showed his true colors this time.
Well, no, and that's what I mean, is because Romney will still be running as a Republican next time, would be my bet.
But McMullin would try
But
this
McMullin would try this again, where he runs as an independent,
so you're
and the
assuming
Democrats...
that Romney wins the Republican nomination.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't think I would vote in that circumstance.
Right? And...
I
don't know that he'd win. I don't know that he'd win the Republican nomination. That would be the only caveat in that is
that's
that we
fail-safe.
managed to push him out in the freaking prelims, not prelims. What the hell?
Primaries.
Primaries. That's what I was saying.
That's a big problem in Utah, where a lot of Democrats are registering as Republicans and then voting in our primaries, and in that's the circumstance I could see Romney winning the Republican nomination.
And so if they pull that off, they get Romney in as the primary Republican, and then they don't run a Democrat and they push McMullin in as an independent again. I mean, who are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for Romney or are you going to vote for McMullin?
Mike, if that's what they do, then I'm going to declare that you gave them this idea.
Yes, because all 10 of our listeners
No,
are...
actually, I remember in 2016, I remember I put a Facebook post that said that we need to reach out to Democrats, you guys, to vote for McMullin. And now that's what they've done. So maybe this is all my fault.
This is entirely your
The
fault.
truth comes out.
Truth comes out. But yeah, no, and that's a viable strategy that I see for them in the future if he doesn't beat Lee, which I don't think he will in this round, because that gives them a guaranteed locked seat for 4 years in Utah.
Right.
6 years.
6 years. Yeah. So there's that.
So, real quick, I want to run through. All three of us did a Senate prediction map thing.
Woot.
Starting with Keith's. There we go. Get that pulled up there somewhere. And there it is. So, Keith, you're going with 53 Republicans, 47 Democrats.
Yeah, I am. Kind of my logic there is if there's going to be a wave, it's going to be in one direction. So basically what I'm doing is I'm assuming the polls, or rather the results, are going to favor Republicans more than the polls reflect, which in a lot of cases has been the case for many of the last several elections.
Right.
And so the close elections like Nevada, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, I'm basically just giving to the Republicans. I think they all say the same story. The momentum is going in one direction towards the Republican in all of those close races. And I think that will continue. I think Pennsylvania was kind of a toss-up, but given, I believe the Democrat's name is Fetterman.
Yes.
His debate performance, I watched some of that debate performance,
I'm sorry.
by the way. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it made me, it lowered my self-esteem. Just watching it.
Wait, wasn't that the guy that had the stroke?
Yes. The guy that his opening statement was,
Good night, everybody.
hello, good night, everybody.
Yeah. So I think that's going to sway a lot of voters towards Mehmet Oz. Mehmet Oz is not a great candidate himself. He wasn't a great primary pick, but
the
we're still voting for we're still rooting for the Republican here. And that being said, I would probably guess that Oz pulls out that race.
Right.
But I mean, it's kind of the same story in Nevada and Georgia as well. Nevada, the momentum is moving in one direction. I believe the governor's race in Nevada is close. Is that right?
I think it is, yes.
I want to say
But anyway, the momentum is one direction. It is kind of 50-50 on that one. But I'm going to give it to the Republicans just because nationwide the momentum is with the Republicans.
Right.
Let's see. But yeah, I will say that the latest polls indicate that the Republican is either up or that it's even. And if you just, use the logic of the red wave, I think that would give it to the Republicans. And then in Georgia, same story there, but also I think the governor's race is not particularly close. It's very likely that the governor's race is going to be red.
Yeah, they really like Kemp, I think is his name.
He's an incumbent, yes.
Georgia seems to just like what he did with everything, so he's staying.
Yeah, so I think that'll put the Senate race over the edge as well. What's that called? Coattails?
Coattails, riding the coattails, yeah.
Yeah, and then Arizona is a little bit harder.
Well, they already called Arizona for the Democrat.
Okay,
there's his inroad.
I take back my prediction on Arizona.
He's been waiting for that one.
They called it last week, so that's already. And it was the news, the AP that said it. So that's cut and dry.
Yeah, the Fox affiliate posted it.
That is not false news at all.
But yeah, that's my more optimistic pick is Arizona. I do think it's a similar story in Georgia. The latest polls, let's see, is moving in favor of the Republican. I don't believe it's even or up, but I think it's just barely down or even. And also the governor's race is also favoring the Republican, not as much as Georgia, But I think that will favor the Republican Senate candidate.
Carrie Lake has been on fire in Arizona. If you haven't seen any of her highlight stuff that gets put out, holy cow.
That's
Dude,
the
Carrie
logic behind mine.
Lake is a beast.
She takes no prisoners when talking to the
Friggin'
press.
love Carrie Lake.
Yeah, but just my understanding of like statistics, is it's either going to be like more than you expect in one direction or the other. It's very rarely right where you expect or in the middle.
Right.
So that's kind of my logic. I do think that the wave is going to favor Republicans just because what it's looking like in the House. And I think we're having troubles because of Senate picks. Like, I don't think the Republican primary picks in Georgia and Pennsylvania were all that good.
No.
But,
Herschel Walker's not bad, but he's also not an orator. He's a former football player.
Yeah,
He's not bad, but he's also not great.
But again, when you look at the alternatives, like I think people will end up supporting the Republican.
Yes.
And so I think we will see a red wave, at least to some extent, which will be fantastic because not as many Republicans are up for re-election this year.
And to be clear, at least on my part, in general, I trust Republicans just more than Democrats because I've been disappointed by them way
often.
too much.
So often.
However,
2017 and 2018 were very disappointing years for Republican performance.
yes. However, this is the only freaking shot we have to try to put some sort of barrier between the madness that is the Biden administration and $5, $6, $7 a gallon gasoline and everything associated with that.
Oh yeah, he's taking gas out of the reserves. We're gonna have to fill those back up at some point.
Yeah.
We're like out of diesel, so
No, we're not out. We have 25 days left.
yeah, no, we're like out of diesel. So
How would you know? It's not like you have to do a lot of diesel related.
Isn't that what fuels our
stuff.
trucks? Which
it's what
carries our
fuels
supply
our
chains?
pavers, which builds our roads.
So you're saying it's important?
Just a lot.
Oh, okay. Good thing that'll end, right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Which, if I remember right, I think the whole train worker strike is back up to happen around Thanksgiving. So that we got that to look forward to.
Good. Good. It's great.
Be thankful, people. Yeah. 53-47. I like that because that's a Romney buffer there.
You don't have my governor prediction.
Oh,
in
that
there.
would be so great to not have to think about Romney anymore.
I cannot wait to not have to think about Romney anymore.
It would be better if he just blew away. And then, let's see. Which one was this? That was Mike. That one's Mike. Yep. Mike is pretty much the same. 53-47.
I matched him pretty much perfectly. We had the same prediction, and for
right,
basically
exactly.
the same reasons.
Nice.
It sounds like that's what's going to happen, man. We're 2 for 2.
The difference between my reasons and your reasons was, I didn't have time to think out my reasons like you did.
Oh, did you see mine?
So
Did you
I
copy
just-
mine?
So I just went through and changed all of the colors that were like in the middle to red.
And here we are.
And here we are. The same prediction.
So I'm the outlier here.
In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses.
I'm a bit of the outlier here. I'm saying 56-43.
Whoa.
Dude, there's no way. There is no way that Republican
Okay,
takes
I could
Washington.
buy New Hampshire, but
Yeah,
Colorado and Washington?
New Hampshire's
What?
close. Colorado, the polls aren't as close as others, but they've gotten very close very quick.
Oh, that's funny. We had the same numbers, but oh no, I did leave Colorado out. That's right. Okay, never mind.
And then Washington, I believe, was tied in the last poll.
No
Senate.
kidding.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. And the governor, more importantly, so what I looked at too was the governor races. So was it Washington was up for governor, I think. I don't remember now. Is it that one?
I don't know. I can't imagine
No, it
Colorado and Washington going red though.
I probably meant Oregon. That's probably what I meant.
The Senate race in Oregon. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
I think
Republicans are doing very well in the governor's race in Oregon.
That's what I meant.
I was going to
Oregon,
say
not Washington.
I could maybe see Oregon doing it because Oregon's been trying to split off into Idaho anyway.
Right. But the governor race is going very well for Republicans there, and then the Senate.
That's mostly
the Senate
because of a
race
third party candidate, is my understanding.
that has yes.
Yeah.
But then the Senate has also closed a lot on that one, and so logic of coattails, you're not going to vote.
Valid.
You're not going to vote for the red Republican.
You left Connecticut as a toss-up?
I left Connecticut as a toss-up because the most recent polls out of there are super far apart and super close together. So that's the I left that as a toss-up more so as that's the wild card. That's the one I'm going to be watching election
Which one's
night.
the wild card?
Connecticut.
Oh, really?
That's the one I'm going to be watching election night to see how that one's called. Because I think I did the same. I think I can't remember if their governor is the same.
I thought my map was optimistic.
Yeah, the governor's the same. So the governor's race and the Senate race have both been all over the place. And so depending on how that goes, makes me think of how the rest of it's going to go.
That's funny.
Yeah, all the polls
had-
are putting the Connecticut.
We had basically the
Democrat
same thing in the governor prediction.
up
Yeah.
by like 15.
I just left Connecticut. I didn't have Connecticut as a toss-up. I had it as a most likely blue.
Yeah, it's
That was the difference in our prediction for the governor race.
right. Yeah, that one will be an interesting one to watch, just because it's in this area where people are sick of New York,
I don't blame them. Have you been to New York?
and so a lot of the people that are sick of New York actually they work in New York but live next door in like Connecticut or New Jersey. So I don't know, something like that was kind of going through my head for Connecticut, where it could be anywhere on election night. So
That would be one heck of a bellwether.
it would. Yeah, and then Mike put out a House thing, so he's saying 240
I did say 240.
for the Republicans,
Yep.
which gives them just a majority, a healthy majority. You didn't do one, Keith, but do you have a number you'd like to throw out?
I do not.
Yeah.
I would want to follow every single one of these races, and because it's just too much, I just
Yeah,
haven't.
Right.
The House is a lot to consume.
Although I do have a question about the Utah race, if you guys know more about it than I do.
Okay.
So last time I remember the 4th district with Owens, and who was our congressman last go around?
Oh, I don't remember.
Anyway,
I don't remember
it
his
was a
name.
super close race the last time, but now apparently it is not close. Why on earth is it not close like it was last time? And I think the time before that.
Oh, so that's right.
That's something I don't understand.
So the guy that was there, didn't he take Mia Love's seat?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Burgess Owens.
No, the guy before
Oh,
Burgess.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
He
there
did.
was somebody between Mia Love and Burgess. Let me see here.
Yeah, look him up real
was-
quick. We should know this.
I know, right?
It's only our state. But from what I remember, Mia Love had an amazing campaign going into 2020. No, 2016.
Ben McAdams.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
McAdams.
the-
I knew it was a. I thought it was a mix.
McAdams was atrocious. He was so bad.
I thought it was a mix something, but I didn't know if that's because McMullin was on the mind.
Yeah, no, it was McAdams and yeah, McAdams was, dude, he was horrible. He was such a bad representative.
The reason why he won, though, is Mia Love ran on this amazing Constitution campaign and all this stuff. So people in Utah were all for that. She gets over there and she does nothing that she promised she was going to do.
She did the opposite of what she promised she was going to do in a lot of
And
cases.
she immediately turned around and when it was politically opportune for her to do so, went against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so that's when you have Donald Trump not endorsing her. And he said, she showed me no love. Me love had shown me no love.
That's a great impression, by the way.
Thank you. So that's essentially what gave it to the Democrats, because it was a strong Republican
makes
thing.
sense.
But that's what turned it over to McAdams.
But then why was the race between McAdams and Owens so close?
So
is it just a incumbent thing?
It was an incumbent thing, but it was also Owens, much like Herschel Walker, had a history.
Oh, I see. And now that he's an incumbent,
yeah,
everyone's gonna vote for him.
And he's also got a record.
Well, now he also has a record in politics where we've seen how he votes, we've seen how he acts, and he does.
If I remember right, his score is pretty decent.
Yeah, he scores pretty decently. He does really well in a lot of the things that he votes for and against. There's a few things that he's done that I disagree with, but
yeah,
for the majority of the things that he's put in, the majority of the policies and stuff that he supported, I'm on board with him. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way a lot of Utah feels.
Right.
So now that they've kind of seen what he'll do, and that he's
to keep
actually
doing
living up to his campaign promises and
that
and
makes
things like
sense.
that, it's not even close, because Ben McAdams was awful too.
Yeah.
He was barely better than Mia Love.
Back to the predictions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Tangent over.
So on the governor's side, I think there's just going to be 35 again. Connecticut is that weird oddball thing that I just could not make heads or tails of. But if this plays out, Colorado, California, and Washington will be the only 3 Democrat governors west of the Mississippi.
Nice. Wouldn't that be
So if there is a
land of
divorce
opportunity?
But what's interesting though is New York, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Those 4, the people have hated what the incumbent Democrat governors have done. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Well, something I like to say to my friends is the thing about being a Democrat is that you always lose. Because
even when you win,
when you lose to a Republican, that means you lost the election. But if you win, then you lose to reality.
That's pretty funny.
I like that. So yeah,
that's actually really hilarious. I like that a lot.
I'm stealing that.
You have my blessing.
You have my blessing.
Which district in California is Nancy Pelosi in?
Somewhere down in San Francisco area where there's like 20 of them.
Because I heard a thing recently that she actually was not doing so hot in the polls down there.
Which may or may not.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Which may or may not be why there was a political stunt. I mean, tragedy that happened at her house.
She's running for re-election,
Yes,
isn't she?
Yeah, she's up for re-election this round.
She'll relinquish power over her cold, dead fingers.
Those have been cold and dead for a long time.
Like a good lich queen.
Like a good lich queen, Pelosi is here.
Yeah.
Oh, State Farm's going to sue me for that one.
All right.
I don't actually know these 2 people. I just showed up and they let me in.
They grabbed me off the street. I tied to the chair. They're forcing me to talk. So you listened over. We did a podcast episode, whatever, Slice of History, a while ago in October, right before the 2020 elections.
Yeah, the Battle for Athens.
The Battle of Athens, Tennessee.
That was before the 2020 election?
We recorded that October 6th or something like that. So when we put that out, it was initially behind a paywall, but turns out you need people to listen for a paywall to work.
Get them to pay. Yeah.
So we brought it out from behind the paywall, and then January 6th happened. So I put a disclaimer on it. This was recorded before that. Because a lot of the stuff we said in there, a little prophetic, you could say.
A little too on the nose.
Yeah, a little bit of a sting with that. But yeah, what have you heard that story before?
No, I listened to it on the way over. I wanted it to be fresh on my mind. So on the way over, not that I absorbed all of it,
Right.
but like it was enough to like blow my mind. You know, I only heard it once, so it sounded like a conspiracy theory to me. But again, it's the first time hearing it, so you know, narratives.
Right. Yeah, it's you can actually go to Athens, Tennessee. They have a museum there with all that stuff.
No kidding.
You can go see different pieces of things, pictures of all the stuff.
Yeah, the
This
title.
McMinn County quite loves that story.
They do. Well, when you're a county that by itself declares war against Spain.
I don't blame them.
Let's give them a recap of what it's about because they may not have seen that episode.
So Battle of Athens, it's essentially a very corrupt cabal, if you will, of politicians, namely Boss Crump.
Yeah, hold on just a second. I want to specify that it's Athens, the county in Tennessee, not Athens in...
Not Athens, Greece. No. Yes.
Well, it was Athens. It's not the county; it's the city because it's in
the
McMinn.
city, okay.
It's in McMinn County. Yeah,
Okay.
McMinn
please
County,
continue.
Tennessee, the city of Athens.
Yeah, so there's a big political head, Boss Crump, that started work on building this political machine so he could get more power for himself and his cronies and all this stuff. And it gets to the point where, you know, Boss Crump is off in the state Senate or House or whatever doing his thing, but his cronies are still doing their thing down in McMinn County, where the sheriff is corrupt, the deputies are corrupt, other officials in the political sphere there.
So political
are corrupt.
machine is defined as like a group of people that are big enough to make things happen politically that are loyal to one cause.
Yes,
And they're in like a corrupt way.
most of the time,
Pretty much.
yeah.
So
At least
so,
in this case.
Yeah, and in this case, it was actually referring to the fact that they had literally built a system to steal elections in the county.
Yeah.
So they were putting people that they wanted in power that would feed their businesses, basically.
They got the right people in power at the state level to reorganize districts in the county so that the judges over the county were reduced to less judges, but just the majority of the judges were in their favor. So it wasn't technically illegal, but it wasn't right either. So they do all this, and it's to the point where no matter how the people vote, no matter how big the turnout is, this sheriff keeps getting reelected. And this is around the time World War II. And the soldiers come back from World War II. They decide they're sick of it because it's still going on from before they left.
And there were a couple of things that went down where the sheriff's department had some scuffles with some of the GIs, some of the returned soldiers, and really set them off.
Yeah.
To where they were like, well, we're not putting up with this anymore, and they decided to run against them.
Yeah. Outright robbing people just because. Things like that. But it gets to the point, election day, right out of the gates, the sheriff and the deputies arrest one of the GI poll watchers for interfering with the election. So they take him away, and it just escalates from there to the point where the sheriff and the deputies...
Was the poll watcher part of the political machine? So was he corrupt? Or
The-
did they
no,
arrest him
the-
because he was not corrupt?
They arrested him because he was not corrupt.
Yeah, he was part of the GI.
Yeah, so he was trying to interfere with them trying to steal the election.
I see.
Because they were turning people away at the polls. They were stuffing ballots. They were doing all kinds.
They
of
were
stuff.
letting people vote that should not be voting because
Yeah,
they were less than legal age to vote.
yeah. And I believe, was this the one where they beat a dude to death because he refused to leave?
No, they shot.
No.
They shot
That's
the
right.
black guy.
They
in
shot the
back.
black guy. That's what it
Yeah.
was. They
Because
shot him.
he was going to vote for the GI ticket, and they chased him out of there and shot him in the back. As far as we know, he survived.
Right. And so they have all this stuff. They arrest one of the GIs who was a poll watcher because he was stopping them from doing what they were trying to do. And then they took the ballot box, which they weren't supposed to do, and they took it to the sheriff's office.
No, the county
Or the
county jail.
County jail. That's what it was. Yeah, they took it to the county jail so that they could count it themselves.
And they just happened to have everyone they needed there to certify the results, even though it's supposed to be a third party that counts.
Yeah. So the GIs went and armored up.
They, I believe it was said they went to the armory, broke into the armory, the National Guard armory, and took 70 weapons and as much ammo as they could carry, and handed out a rifle and 2 bandoliers of ammo to anyone that would take it.
Then they went and blew up the jail.
They go to the county jail and fire starts.
These were the GIs?
GIs did this.
Because the sheriff and the deputies, they closed the polls early because it was escalate. The GIs had taken prisoners. The deputies had taken prisoners. The GIs left their prisoners tied to a tree in the woods. May or may not have shellacked them in honey.
That's from heavyweights.
So they stormed this jail to try to get in because they know ish is going on, but they have to have proof. Otherwise, all of them are going to jail because the feds are on their way. Because they intercepted a transmission that the deputy and all them had sent word to the feds and the state, like,
very
hey,
allegorious.
Yeah. So they had to get in there and they had to do it fast. Otherwise, it was game over. And
so they had to obtain proof. Like, they had their suspicions.
They just had to get evidence.
And they knew it was going on. They just didn't have evidence. And so they basically went to war.
They resorted to the last option.
And if they didn't get evidence, they would all go to jail.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Very dramatic.
And so they're doing all they can to just pepper this place with bullets, and they're not yielding and all this stuff. They're throwing Molotov cocktails at the place, and they're still not giving up. So finally, they throw some TNT at the building.
At about 2:48 in the morning, they lobbed the first stick of dynamite over. And it blew up one of the guy's cars.
Well, that sounds a lot worse than a bunch of insurrectionists.
I know, right? Yeah. So literally, they threw this stick of dynamite over the wall. It blows up a police cruiser.
And there's pictures of all of this aftermath. You can see all of this aftermath. It's awesome.
So then they just start hucking bundles of dynamite over. And one of them finally landed on the porch roof and blew the side of the jail off.
Basically knocked the building off the foundation. And that's when they said, okay, yeah, all right, we're done. We're done. We give up. They go inside. They not only find the ballot boxes, they find a bunch of blank ballots they were filling out and stuffing into the boxes.
And after the piece of dynamite, after the piece of the dynamite hit the roof and went off, the deputies ran out and surrendered.
Yeah. We're done.
We're done. We quit.
But yeah, they get in there and they find the proof that they need, and all of those guys get locked away, except for the 2 that were leading it all. They were able to escape in an ambulance because the GIs saw the ambulance coming in, so they let the ambulance come in to take care of wounded people. It was actually just the 2 leaders.
And this is all proven and documented, like in history books. Why are people not talking about this?
Ferris and Control, I think, were the 2 that got away.
So your source, is it like a book or like a textbook or the?
It's the couple of guys themselves gave interviews about this. There's news articles, there's history books, there's documentaries, all this stuff.
Oh yeah, it's all kinds of. It
is the most documented case of voter frauds in American history
because of multiple elections. It was like a systematic thing.
Yeah, they stole multiple elections, and if not for this particular election where the GIs actually forcibly took it back,
this event unearthed all of it.
It unearthed all of it.
How regional
and the corruption
was this system was what kind of positions were they stealing?
It was pretty much like half of the state of Tennessee.
Yeah,
the
main boss guy.
Or are we talking like governor?
It wasn't
Trying to
governor
remember.
because Crump, he tried to go to the federal level,
Yeah.
but he didn't like that as much because turns out you got to kind of have seniority and stuff there to actually make things happen that you want to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So he came back to Tennessee and just worked with the state legislature and then became a behind the scenes kind of guy.
Well, I'm enjoying being the learner on all this.
Yeah. So the system that he set up for where he ended up moving to Memphis, that's where he orchestrated everything from. Memphis turned into an amazing place. They got the nice fire department that he said they were going to get. They got the nice police department that he said they were going to get. The police and fire department went around and picked people up to vote for him. But
Yeah.
but for where he lived, it was really nice. But everywhere else in Tennessee that his little mechanisms reached out to turned to crap.
And he did eventually fall out of favor and power when he opposed Harry Truman, I think.
Yeah. Opposed Harry Truman and then also opposed
he
the
opposed
freedom
Harry
train.
Truman, and he opposed the civil rights movement, the civil rights laws that they were trying to enact.
That and the freedom train.
Yes. Yeah, the freedom train. He stopped the freedom train from coming to Memphis because he didn't want the people there to be able to read the Declaration of Independence
Specifically
or the
colored-
Constitution.
Specifically
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that from
Yeah,
over
Specifically
here.
colored people. He didn't want them to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was,
specifically.
That rubbed the wrong way.
I would imagine it would.
Yeah. So he fell out of power shortly before he died, like 6 or 7 years before he eventually passed away. Was when he finally lost like pretty much everything. So yeah, that's the Battle of Athens in a nutshell. If you want the full story, you can find it on our podcast.
A link will hopefully be
Provided.
in the description
Yes.
if I can find it.
Yes.
But yeah, I only bring that up because, stuff happens. And no, I'm not advocating go grab your guns and make sure the polls are watched thoroughly.
How can we apply this in our own lives?
It's more of an understanding that it can get much worse than it is, but also it is that important.
Yeah.
It should be that important to people. Because I believe the quote Mike started with on that podcast from a judge was the Second Amendment is there for citizens when they've exhausted all other amendments
Yep.
and the government refuses to listen, so they have to resort back to the only one they have left.
A doomsday provision designed for those exceptionally rare circumstances where all other rights have failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's in the Declaration of Independence, if I'm not mistaken, that it's the duty of the people to rebel.
Yes,
The
yes.
government
Yep.
fails to protect their rights.
Yeah.
And that was Judge Alex Kaczynski.
Yes. So, yeah, the elections are going to be crazy, and it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
But it could always be worse. But so long as we treat them as important as the Fighting Bunch, I believe they called themselves in Athens.
In Athens. Mhm.
If we treat it as sacred as they treated it, as important as they treated it, we can avoid a lot of this stupid crap. It's just convincing your neighbor that this is more important than just some mean tweets.
Yeah. My question about that story is, how did they find out? Like, how did they know for sure that it was happening to resort to violence without tangible proof? That's what I want to know.
Let me see if I can find
Because
that
that's an interesting question. Like, at what point
Yeah, I think it's
does an action like that
it was
become
kind of an
noble?
open secret in McMinn County. Like, everybody kind of knew that everything was corrupt and that they were stealing the elections. Like, it really wasn't.
to the point where people just weren't showing up to elections.
Yeah. Like until the GIs decided to run, the last few elections before that, the people just basically didn't show
And
up.
the GI ticket, it was a combined ticket, Republican, Democrat, Independent. They all said, yeah, GI ticket, aside from the Democrats that were all with the sheriff and everything. So it was kind of an Evan McMullin type thing, but actually fighting for the Constitution.
And what they did there at the end wasn't new. So pretty much in every one of the elections prior to this, they would collect the ballot boxes from the precincts. They would take them to the McMinn County Jail, and they would tabulate the results there rather than where they were supposed to be. And any opposition poll watchers were always ejected and arrested as troublemakers. You know, so they pretty much they were sticking to the playbook the entire time.
So they didn't have direct evidence, but they had all kinds of smoke around the fire.
Gotcha.
That led them to there's absolutely malfeasance going on, and we have to prove it.
And I mean, even on non-election years, it was pretty obvious that they were all corrupt and that they were all doing these things together, because they'd opened illegal casinos and speakeasies and whorehouses and all kinds of things throughout the county. So,
a county that's not supposed to have all those things because they were federally banned.
Yeah, and they listed the county employees on the payrolls for the sole purpose of covering up the money laundering that they were doing.
Yeah, so that's the question, is at what point do actions like that become noble rather than, you know...
Yeah.
Am I exiting the Overton window a little too much here?
No. That's a valid question, because even the Revolution, they were all insurrectionists until they won. History is written by the winners. So
it's very interesting if you read a history book.
Well,
it's very entertaining to note the fact that the good guy wins every time.
Yeah.
That took me a second to understand the implications of that.
I'm uncomfortable with that knowledge.
But it's true.
Are we the baddies?
If you read a history book, the good guy wins every time.
Well, again, just to make sure that I mean, this is just my opinion, but where I'm at on the election fraud and things, like we mentioned earlier, I have my suspicions, but I don't think I could prove it.
Right.
But I also think that they can't keep doing this forever.
No, that's
before we start getting proof.
Right.
That's part of what makes this interesting, is if they're that desperate to hold on to power, there's a lot of crap they'd have to do to make that happen.
Yeah, so thank goodness for the Second Amendment, because that is our last line of defense.
Well, and I mean, you know, you ask, like, how did they know these things? I think at some point it becomes fairly obvious. I mean, look at the 2016 or 2020 election.
Yeah,
because there are all of these things. We can point to things. We have the movie, 2000 Mules. We have the Hunter Biden laptop. And now there's how many Hunter Biden laptops?
I know.
There's more than one. There are like
that
three.
Blew my mind when I'm
there are
why?
like three of
He
them
wants
now.
to be caught.
Like, seriously, the dude has done everything possible in his power to give us every piece of evidence we need to not only not let his dad win the election,
but to lock him away.
But to impeach him if he did win the election.
Yeah.
He's, like, literally, the evidence that they have right now, he should be impeached.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
my understanding is Biden has committed like 3 impeachable offenses.
At least. But they can't, they won't do anything because it's
Democrat
controlled.
And Romney won't let him.
Exactly.
Which is why something like 53 senators is nice, because that's your Romney buffer.
Right. And so, so it'll be...
Would they be able to impeach a president with just 51 votes if they get rid of the filibuster? No, because the impeachment is 2/3 of the Senate.
Impeachment is 2/3 of the Senate.
So I don't think that would change.
So it really wouldn't change much. They could probably hold him in office even then.
The hope would be the House investigation would expose all this publicly, is more so what it would be.
It would have to be that they push so hard that the investigation exposes everything to the point where it is literally, you either have to impeach him
Or you're not in office anymore yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would be the only hope, which if they could get the trial and stuff going and they did bring forth all the evidence, I think they would have it.
And if it indicts Republicans along the way, so be it.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, I don't care how much of the cancer you have to cut out.
I want the cancer
I want
gone.
the cancer gone. Right. But that's the thing is it's visible. We can see it. We've been watching it for years. You know, we've watched the media deteriorate our country. We've watched social media deteriorate our country. We've watched, you know, them cry foul whenever they lose and then say that the elections and stuff are absolutely above board and
rules
above question.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
When they win. And it's painfully obvious when you follow the breadcrumbs that these things are happening.
Yeah.
And it's just, where is the line that once they cross it, it's too much. That's the determination is where is that line? It's not, are they doing it? Because we know they're doing it. We can see it. It's everywhere. It's just where
does the tolerance break?
Where does the tolerance break?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the specific things on the 2020 election that are provable in my mind is the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Yep.
The mail-in voting in Pennsylvania, which is explicitly against their constitution, but their Supreme Court ruled, it's like, no, it doesn't say that. It says it right there. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what their Supreme
as they're
Court
sitting there
ruled.
with the whiteout.
And then they changed it after the fact so that it would no longer say that.
Yeah. See, we told you.
they did do that.
Yeah.
They
so
did do
it's
that,
no
yep.
longer part of their constitution.
It's no longer
now?
part of their
I didn't
constitution
know that.
now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
Yeah, they literally voted. They put it through a month or two after the election to change all of that so that it wouldn't be a problem for them in the future.
And then was it Michigan where they were boarding up the windows?
Yeah.
And kicking people out?
I don't know much about that particular instance, but the last thing is the signature verification. Like if you look at the statistics on how many signatures were rejected in the 2016 election versus the 2020 election, they were like not rejecting signatures. And also the postmark dates, they were saying like, oh, if it's not postmarked, just assume that it's counted.
Well, COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, and so all of those things, in my opinion, are just breaking the rules or changing the rules to benefit you. And so I think that was illegitimate, and I think that is provable. But going a little more conspiratorial here, you know, going to the 2,000 mules, a lot of the allegations were that people were stuffing the ballot boxes with like, you know, 2 to 5 ballots at a time. And like the fact checkers are like, oh, they're just dropping off ballots for their families.
But it's illegal to do that.
For their families?
It is illegal to turn in somebody else's ballot in most states.
I don't think that's true. I think it's if it's for your family, I believe that's legal.
Yeah, it varies state.
It varies state to state, but in
state.
most states, it is illegal to turn in a ballot for anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
Huh.
And with the
I'll have to look into that. But anyway, let's assume my premise for a minute. Let's assume that you are allowed to deliver ballots for your family. Like, my question is, if that's your comeback, if you're saying, oh, they were just, you know, delivering ballots for their family. And my reaction to that is, you don't know that. You're assuming that. Yes, it's plausible, absolutely. But you explain to me why I can trust that they didn't get the ballot from mailboxes or manufacture them and stuff them into ballots.
In the instance of 2,000 Mules, they have a video recording of the same person doing it multiple times. So how many people are in their family?
I don't believe they have a recording in 2,000 Mules.
Yeah,
I believe it's the same person is going to multiple drop boxes, and that is the definition of a mule. In 2,000 Mules.
Yeah. Right, but
I don't believe they have a camera recording of the same person doing it. Although I will say,
I'm pretty sure we showed it in one of our episodes.
Yeah, they do.
They do. They have a recording of the same exact person going to a ballot box multiple times
with multiple
ballots.
I'd be interested in seeing that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, we need to find that link.
But also,
because I know we showed it in one of our episodes.
But also to your premise, like, sure, the guy has multiple family members, and for whatever reason, multiple days, his 12 family members dropped off 4 at a time or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
But anyway, my point is like, I feel like you should be able to prove that you're protecting my vote.
yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're not doing it. Like,
Yeah,
we
they're
can do
not.
a lot to, like, my understanding, the reason we don't have evidence is because there's no way to collect evidence.
Right. And there's a refusal to collect evidence.
Yeah.
That's
And-
the issue.
And also, I will say about 2,000 Mules is if it's all bunk, then investigate it. As far as I know, like
Exactly.
there have been no local authorities that have even
Well,
tried
and
to.
even
except
just
for Arizona, I think
you-
there was a isolated case of prosecuted voter fraud in Arizona.
yeah, I believe so.
But I think that was very local.
Well, and that's what like and you know, not even 2,000 Mules, but Steven Crowder. You said you watched Crowder earlier.
Oh yeah, where he went to bogus addresses.
Yeah, they had
And
a
got
list
banned
of
from
bogus.
YouTube on it.
Yeah, they had a list of bogus addresses. They
demonetized or
literally
something.
drove to these addresses, and they have video of them at these addresses, and it's literally vacant lots and freeway underpasses.
That was some great reporting.
You know, and that's where.
But the critics all say, "Oh, that won't make a difference in the election, in the outcome of the election. Therefore, it's totally legit."
It doesn't matter if it makes a difference or not. The fact that it happened and you're refusing to
Should be
investigate it,
prosecutable.
it
Yeah.
should be prosecuted. It should be investigated, and it should be accounted for. Because if it isn't, then there is no definitive way that you can absolutely say that there was not enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
Because you did not investigate.
And that's the kind of argument.
That's a great
of
point.
You didn't even investigate the fact that we could prove these ones. Like, here's a list of ones that we have video evidence, we have hard copy evidence that these are vacant lots and freeway overpasses, and they voted.
somehow.
And you will not investigate any of it.
Yeah.
And that alone tells me that it is bad enough that it might have affected it.
Yeah. And to the that thing you said, Keith, well, it wouldn't have made a difference. It's kind of the same thing as saying, I don't like my tax dollars going to XYZ programs in the federal government. So, well, you don't really pay a whole lot in taxes. Your tax dollars probably aren't actually going to XYZ program. Okay, but it's still my taxes that are going.
You could declare your taxes are going anywhere.
Right. And so it's
Right.
and so it's, to me it's that same kind of argument where, well, that doesn't really change the outcome of the election. Yes, my $1,000 in taxes for the year doesn't really change what the government's going to do with their money. However, it's still my taxes that are going to it. It's still my vote that I want to be sure is counted correctly against all the other votes. But apparently that's too much to ask.
That doesn't apply to Bernie Sanders voters.
Ooh, shots fired. That's funny.
They all boycotted paying taxes and no one noticed. That was a joke that I...
See, I belong to a certain secret society. I don't believe I gotta mention its name.
You know?
a little
that's
outdated,
funny.
but still funny.
Yep. With that, Keith, it's been fun. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, I did.
Good. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all those things. And
Yep.
Keith, if you really had fun, you're welcome back anytime you want to vent and all that stuff.
I'd love to. I came here because all of my personal relationships were tired of listening to me.
Do it.
So let's find new people to get tired of.
Stop, don't come back.
I like the way you think.
That's basically what we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've lost all my liberal followers online, so I'll start a podcast.
Stop it. Get some help.
It's called Create Your Own Podcast. That's the help.
Or piggyback on another one.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. Thanks for all the support. And we'll probably be on Twitter more often now that the
Now that it has been emancipated.
bird is free. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
stuff or no B stuff.
And what's the structure of the show? Like, what are we going to start with? And
So we'll do
I always have B stuff.
the intro, do the vitamin B, then after
It
that
sounded much dirtier than I meant.
I have B stuff.
Wait. Yes.
And there. Now we can sync all that stuff.
He's got the clap and he's giving it to you.
Only a minute in. Dang it! That's gonna be fun to find.
Yes. Yes, it is. All right. I've got a handful of articles here, so this should be good to go.
A McHandful of McArticles.
Yes. Yeet. All right. Do we have any articles in our stuff?
I was thinking
Show
maybe
notes
bringing
or
up the
anything?
DHS leaks.
Okay. Do we want to bring up the AP Arizona thing?
I mean, if it comes up in conversation, sure.
I'm mad enough about it, it'll probably come up in conversation.
Do it.
We should probably find a link for that at some point. Preferably one that was original. Anyway,
I'm about 3 days behind on my podcast listening, so I might not know what you're talking about.
I'm like 3 months behind on mine.
I make one and I'm 3 months behind.
Right? That's the problem is I make one, so I don't have enough time to listen to most of them anymore.
Right.
I make one and I have 2 other businesses. This is great. All right. Ready to go then?
Yeah. Are you ready?
I am ready. Are you sure?
Yes.